George. Go ahead, George. Go ahead, George.
I cannot hear you, Tyler. Wow. Here we are. My voice not here. We're going to give it a go. This is the day after PFF forecast. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. We're going to talk about both of the games yesterday. Eric was there. He's got a voice. I do not. We're also going to talk about the Super Bowl, what we think the line should be, where we think it's going to go, what we bet. Let's fucking rock. You need to do some talking here, Eric, because clearly, I'm gonna hold the microphone as close as I can, and like whisper sweet nothings into it. But you're in Kansas City. Let's start there. Just like holy shit, what the hell? As you've like decompressed and you've started to think about and maybe rewatch and go over that game, what sticks out to you?
Well, first off, our models liked the right side of that game apparently. Like we had under 54 and a half. We had Bengals +7. I didn't bet any Bengals money line, but that also hit. So and we wrote that up. So like from a betting perspective, it was fine. I had some Patrick Mahomes under rushing yards, and it was so weird, right? So, and the people don't know, I'm saying, friend of the program, Seren Petro, let me stay at his house, and I got tickets from somebody in the Chiefs front office, and I was 8 rows up, and I was sitting next to Alex Gordon, the former left fielder for the Royals, and it was a lot of fun. And all the Chiefs touchdowns in the first half were scored in the end zone that I was sitting in. So I have videos of like that one play where Mahomes did all this and then threw the ball to Kelsey, and it was when Tyreek Hill caught the ball and got tackled at the 1, I was like, oh, this is going to be a game. And I think, at the same time, it was one of those, they were getting the ball to start the second half. They were up 11. That was one difference from the first game. Mm-hmm. And then they got to stop after they gave up a 3, like basically a 6 and out, another 6 and out, another 6 and out. The Chiefs did not cross the 50-yard line in the second half until the last drive of the game. And to me, it was just, when you look at that, and I said this on the radio today, because it's like, it's you go back and look and you think, have the Chiefs ever won a big game when their quarterback didn't play well?
Yeah, I guess, isn't that like a tale as old as time?
No, but I think, but that's the point, right? So we come into this weekend, right? And I mean, my biggest takeaway, and I don't mean this in any way, and I will take my mea culpa on the Rams from here for 2 weeks. I'll sing the praises of the Rams, and I will, and you know, they made the Super Bowl. We face facts on this show. We don't run from them. But I was sort of thinking to myself, this was a year where I didn't think that the Chiefs were a very good team compared to the last 3 years. And I sort of felt fortunate that the league sort of fell their way to the point where they were hosting a conference championship as a 7-point favorite. And ultimately, the fact that they weren't that good of a team gave somebody else a chance, right? And I think the same thing, like if you're a Niners fan, and I think this is why, you know, the game was so painful, I think for you as well, was almost the same thing's true. And I'm not saying that the Bengals and the Rams are not good teams. What I'm saying is the Bengals and the Rams are 4 seeds in the NFL. And 4 seeds in an NFL that did not have a truly elite team, right? Packers, as it would stand, not truly elite. Chiefs, not truly elite. And when it's a year like that, and you're you know, whatever team you root for, whatever team you bet on, et cetera, has a chance to be the favorite, or in the Niners case, have a chance to be up 10 points in the fourth quarter and seal a game, and you don't do it, it's just more painful, right? Like it's almost better when the expected thing happens, right?
Who do you blame? Because like the Niners collapse was epic. And we're going to get into who should be blamed there. And I feel like that one for me is certainly more raw. Obviously, I'm a Niners fan. Let me just put it this way, though. I was in a tough position where our model liked the Niners, right? Our lock of the week was Niners +3 first half. So I was in a shitty position where I was betting the Niners and rooting for them. And so I feel like that one is more acute. But the Chiefs' choke job has to be the worst. They were at home. They were dominant. Patrick Mahomes had a 90 PFF grade in the first half. Could not miss. I mean, could not miss.
They got all but one of the available yards that their offense could have gotten in the first half. And that was
insane. It was insane. Yeah. So in the second half, and I'm curious your take on like who to blame, because some of the data points are damning. And I'm not sure, you know, so let me give you the data point that stuck out to me. Patrick Mahomes in the second half in overtime, an average time to throw of 4 seconds. 4 freaking seconds. Do you know what his average depth of target was? 3.9 fucking yards. Are you kidding me?
3.9 yards?
It was a joke. I think that might have been just third and fourth quarter. So
yeah, because he had a couple, but yeah, but you're right.
Whose fault is that?
This sounds bad, and I try to divorce my fandom a little bit from analysis of this game, but I don't think I'll ever look at Patrick Mahomes the same.
Really?
No, because like there was a play in that game where in the first half where Blake Bell was kind of wobbling around a little bit. And Patrick Mahomes grabbed him by his upper arm like he was a child and walked him off the field because they wanted to do the hurry up offense. And you just saw his demeanor, and it was definitive. And I can tell you, right, and I think they emptied the chamber in the first half. In my opinion, they wanted to end the competitive phase of the game in one half. And they played like it. And they were aggressive like it. And Patrick was very definitive. And then in the second half, there were drops. Like the Hardman had a drop, I think it was, Hill had a drop, and then Kelsey had a drop in the first drive of the first half of the second half. And then after that, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the third down play. JT O'Sullivan had a great video on it. How do you not? I mean, Byron Pringle and Travis Kelsey were wide open in the end zone, and there was no pressure on him. And he just held on the ball. And it was one of those where, and it's a joke, but like somebody texted me during the game, it was like, is Mahomes throwing this game? Like there were plays where it looked like but like, I don't understand like how he plays that well in the first half. And then the second half, he's just like, and to me, I think here's where I'll come at it. And again, this is both from like a person who's followed this team a lot over the last, 50, but especially the Mahomes era. The NFL's a grind now. When Tom Brady was going through the league, it was 16 games, it was 2 byes, right? So to get to the Super Bowl, it was 16 games and then 2 games. Now it's 17 games and 3 games. And I think, like, did they just run out of steam? Was it just kind of like, and I get, yeah.
I have some conspiracy theories for you. Are you ready?
Okay.
So conspiracy theory number 1 is that at halftime, Patrick Mahomes' wife and brother visited the locker room and put a jinx. They did a TikTok in the locker room, and that was that. And it sent Mahomes over the edge and was unable to focus on the game. That's conspiracy number 1. Conspiracy number 2 is that it was literally that. I mean, this is not a conspiracy theory, but my kind of, I don't know, take on it, I guess, is they mentally just did what they did all season. And what they did all season was they brought their mental acuity and sharpness in bits and parts of the season, but not for extended durations, right? Mm-hmm. And that this game was a microcosm of that. Yeah. And I just think that has been their season. And what was really interesting, as bad as Jimmy G played, and we're going to talk about the Niners here, and I'm going to tell everyone the story about what the fuck happened to my voice. But as bad as Jimmy G played in the second half, you know who had the lowest PFF grade in the second half yesterday?
That was Pat.
It was Patrick freaking Mahomes, which is absolutely unbelievable. So what about I hate to do this, but did the Chiefs lose that game or did the Bengals win it?
See, this is where it gets hard. And if we want to, clip this out for social or whatever, make sure you get the whole thing. I hate because I'm somebody, by the way,
Matthew Stafford is in the chat. Just want to let you know.
Oh, good. And I don't want to say this about either team that's in the Super Bowl, and I want to make sure that we give credit to both teams. By the way, the Bengals are 5-1 when I go to their games, right? I think that's my pitch to Chris to get tickets to the Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Watching the Bengals team all year, that team, for what they lack in like high-end talent on defense, for example, they're gritty, right? And they play collectively. I had the tweet about how they put their secondary together, all that. I don't want to say the Chiefs gave the game to the Bengals, but
you do.
And I don't want to take away from the Bengals what they've earned, which is a Super Bowl berth. But the Chiefs lost that game. If you're a 7-point favorite and you get an 18-point lead, this is, by the way, no coach in the playoff history has blown more 18-point leads than one, except for Andy Reid's blown 3 with the Chiefs. The Marcus Mariota game, the 28-point lead to Andrew Luck in the 2013 playoffs. If you are a 7-point favorite, you are the better team. And if you have an 18-point lead at home as the better team, and you surrender that lead in a game where, and here's the other thing I'll say, and we'll get to the Super Bowl later, right? But I want to say one thing about handicapping the Bengals. The Bengals haven't even played that great offensively in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Bengals scored one offense. The Bengals had 2 touchdown drives yesterday against the Chiefs. One was on Samaje Perine going 41 yards against the Chiefs, Swiss cheese, no tackle, 2-minute defense. And the other one was after the interception to a defensive lineman at the 30-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like the last game between the Bengals and Chiefs, the Bengals took that game, right? They went and took and won that game. I think this game the Chiefs gave to them. And I think if this, and it's the exception, not the rule. I want to ask you a question, George, in 1 second. It's why Marino never got back. It's why Rodgers never got back. When you look back and see, like, why did these guys get back? It's games like this, right? It's Eli Manning walking into Lambeau and winning against Rodgers. It's stuff like that. And Okay, if I set the line at Patrick Mahomes 2.5 Super Bowls career, including the one he won 2 years ago, what side would you go on it?
This is good. We got to ask the chat here. This is good. Let me think about this. So
2.5 would seem low, but
remember, so what I want to remind, maybe you remember this. What was it? Gosh, right after they won the Super Bowl, didn't they have a like over under for them that was just insane? Was it still 2.5?
Yep.
That was it. Man, you know what? I think if you were in the NFC, I'd be tempted to go over. But here's something interesting, and let me get this out here so that everyone can answer the question. The AFC is stacked, buddy. Like all of the good young quarterbacks are in that division or in that conference. So I'm gonna go under. What about you?
I'll say I think a lock is Reed and Mahomes are under.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Well, yeah, but you agree with under in general. I think 2.5 is so. This is me copping out because I think I said a good line. I would have a hard time picking over as well, and I think it's because of just the sheer math of it. It was the one guy that tweeted out the other day, Aaron Rodgers, if he played in New England, would have just as many or more Super Bowls as Tom Brady. I'm like, if Tom Brady played in New England again, he would not have anywhere close to 6 Super Bowls. We've been seduced by the opiate of Brady. But you think about these guys that are going to make the Hall of Fame. Peyton Manning, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. 2. Ben Roethlisberger, for a time, was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. 2. Steve Young, one of the best passers in NFL history, got 1 as a starter. Troy Aikman got 3. And I think lucky to get the 3rd one. Montana got the 4. Bradshaw got the 4. But like all these other guys, like Kurt Warner got the 1. Kurt Warner was the, redefined offense in football for a while. So, and you talk about the family thing with Pat. To me, the Chiefs at some point in time kind of have to do what Tiger Woods did. And they're far less accomplished than Tiger Woods. But they have to one off season peel it back and say, we have to stop trying to win the 2020 Super Bowl every year. And I feel like the last couple of years, or in 2020, was we have to win the 2019 Super Bowl again. So they run it back. And when you look at, how many pressures Frank Clark had Sunday?
And many, was it?
1.
Yeah.
The Chiefs defensive line is the most expensive defensive line in the entire NFL.
It's not that good. Yeah.
And they needed a guy off the street, Melvin Ingram, to be their best edge player. And so I would go over, but just because, but I think it's going to require some reimagining of the, I don't even know if it's Andy Reid. It's because the Andy Reid thing is kind of Billy Bean, like my shit don't work in the playoffs type of thing.
By the way, the under is getting 64% of the.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The listener votes right now. Here's where I will agree with you on the Chiefs losing it more than the Bengals winning it. Although Joe Burrow, there were 2 sides to this. So where I'll agree is that Joe Burrow did not play particularly well in the second half. He played well and made some incredible plays, but also had a couple of turnover-worthy plays. And so for that reason, I think it's justifiable. And in overtime, that was a nice play by the Bengals, but it was also just an absolute, debacle by Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I think it's valid to say that. The interesting thing about the Tiger Woods analogy is, have we seen, like, what are some examples of that happening? Did Brady and Belichick ever really do that? I mean, I guess kind of,
this
right?
Is the example. So the example is so the one time that Belichick lost an 18-point lead in the playoffs was to Peyton Manning in 06.
Mm-hmm.
They were up 21-3, and that was a bad Patriots team. They were the 4 seed, I want to say, and the Colts were the 3 seed hosting that round. And Patriots lose that game, and then what do they do in 07? They load up. They get Adalius Thomas, they get Randy Moss, they get Wes Welker, they get Dante Stallworth, they get everybody, and they go 16-0, right? And it also speaks to, and we'll talk about the Rams here and what they've accomplished, but it also speaks to what happened to the Patriots there. They didn't win the Super Bowl. I mean, they became the best team in football, but they didn't win the Super Bowl. And that led to, Brady and Belichick went 10 straight years without winning, right? We forget that because Brady's been around for fucking ever, but he went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. And so I think that's one example where it's like, the Brady's early years, they won with defense and Brady kind of being a caretaker. And then by the time it got to 14, when they won again, he was who he kind of always is now. And so but Pat is already that kind of quarterback. And I think that and look, the AFC back then, Rivers, Roethlisberger, Manning, Brady, it was stacked at that time too, right? And so I wonder, I don't know. I think Mahomes needs, again, like I said, this game's going to change the way we look at Patrick Mahomes. And I think ultimately he's got to learn how to be Brady. I was watching the first half of that game and I thought to myself, he's kind of becoming that now, where it's it's got to be 6 yards at a time, and he's got to be willing to be patient with the ball, right? And he happens to have the wheels and the arm strength that Brady never had. But what he lacked and what was exposed this year at times was just the patience, just to dagger a team 6 yards at a time, right? And he, in the second half, he's just not good at that yet. He's not good enough at that yet. And I think that that's the fundamental change in his career. He's going to have to do the boring stuff, and he's going to have to it.
And kudos, by the way, what I thought was interesting was you talked about the defensive line for the Chiefs. On the other side, on the offensive line, which was supposed to be, the reason they were going to win the Super Bowl this year because they went and reinvested in that heavily. The Bengals defensive line won in the second half.
Orlando Brown had a bad game.
Sam Hubbard had a 90 pass rush grade in the second half. Their coverage was good. It's a tough team to cover against, and their coverage was good. And it's going to be tested again in the Super Bowl. So, I think that is going to be really interesting. You look at, across the defensive line, BJ Hill played really well. Trey Hendrickson, who I don't think is 100%, played really well, especially in that second half. So, yeah, the Bengals are not a team that you would say, oh yeah, I'm just expecting them to come back against the best team in the NFL twice in 5 weeks, and win. And so it's hard to then see them do that and be like, okay, well, wait, are they this team? So that's going to be interesting to talk about when we get to the Super Bowl.
The Bengals, so kudos to the Bengals defense. They've held the Chiefs to a combined 6 points in the second half of the 2 games they played this year. Zach Taylor, one of the favorites to be fired going into the year, now is, probably if you included, postseason, he's easily the coach of the year. So not taking anything away from the Bengals win total this year was 6.5. That ties the 2001 Brady Patriots, first year with Brady, for the lowest win total to make the Super Bowl since the turn of the millennium. The Rams, interestingly, at 5.5 wins, was the lowest. It was 1999 when they made and won the Super Bowl. The Bengals, the longest odds, if you look at the win totals since that Rams and Patriots team.
By the way, I can catch 0 breaks here. I'm getting absolutely destroyed in the comments because of the lighting, which yes, is awful. And I get it. If I turn them off, I'm completely in the dark. So just please be kind. We're going to get to the Niners-Rams game here in just 1 second. Before we do, a reminder, you can get 25% off at pff.com for the Super Bowl, promo code Super Bowl. Or actually, sorry, Super 25 is the promo code, 25% off any PFF subscription. That includes the Edge subscription, which is just $40 for an entire year. So you break that down, you're paying way less than $5 a month. And you get 25% off that price, gets you all of PFF's premium content, our fantasy tools. And if you want to go all the way, get an elite subscription, 25% off, gives you all of the great content and fantasy tools, plus all of our betting tools. Like I said, both our teams lost, but the model was up nearly 4 units this week. So like
over 4 units.
Yeah, over 4 units. So you need to even out the sorrow, even out the pain, go get a PFF subscription. And if you have some comments for us, hit us up, contact@pff.com. Tell us what PFF features you love the most and what you'd most want from PFF if you were to get a subscription, and we'll see if we can make it happen for you. That's contact@pff.com. Okay. Let me, I feel like I owe people, because people are like, do you have COVID? You know, what's wrong with you? No, I decided that I needed to do something for the game. I was thinking about going to the game. Tickets were rather expensive, and I really wanted to both be able to bet on the game while, you know, the game was happening and enjoy the first game. So that kind of leaves you with only a few options. One of them being Las Vegas. It so happened that some of the PFF crew is there for the Shrine Bowl. So it's kind of a perfect storm. So I made a split decision. I bought a flight, booked a cabana and a hotel room in like the span of 5 minutes on Thursday night, and ended up going from 2 degrees to like 70 degrees. And it was awesome. And everyone, of course, that we were with was cheering for the Bengals. We all had, you know, Bengals plus the points. Mike Quinn, one of our producers, had put a plus 700 money line bet on the Bengals when they were getting killed in the first half. And funnily enough, there was a Chiefs fan that was haggling him at the end after the game was over, and he took the ticket, the 7-1 ticket, and just tossed it at the fan and said, "Here, take this. You need it more than I do." So the Bengals game was absolutely electric. It was so much fun, and of course,
but
the
how
whole
many?
time,
Be honest with me. How many PFFers are secretly rooting for the Bengals as a Schadenfreude towards me?
I don't think anyone was doing it as a Schadenfreude towards you. Interestingly, I think they were doing it legitimately as a like, holy shit moment.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a few of the guys that are from Cincinnati, but no one would do that to you. Everyone loves you too much.
Okay.
So anyway,
that's how I was feeling, because I was kind of.
Don't worry. So everyone, you know, the big game for everyone that I was with was the first game, but for me, of course, it's the second game. So I'll tell you this story. So the second half of the Chiefs game is happening, and I know the third quarter I'm going to go put a few more bets down on the Niners. So the third quarter comes to a close, and it turns out that in Stadium Swim, which is where we're at Circa, it's actually really hard to bet on the freaking games. You have to use like the shittiest ATM of all time. There's no cashier, and there's like 2 kiosks, and the kiosks stink. So I'm like, okay, screw this. I'm going to go to the cashier so that I can get, you know, the requisite amount of cash that I want to get out, and I can put the bets in with a real person. So I leave the pool, no shirt on. And immediately when I get to the cashier, they go, "Sir, you need to have a shirt on. We literally will not serve you." Like, you got to be kidding me. So I go buy a jacket in the store. I'm like, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to return this in a second. Go out. And it turns out they want my ID too. My ID is on the reservation up at the table. So I'm like totally screwed. Luckily, I have some cash already. I go play blackjack. I win. Now have enough money that I can get all the bets that I want to get down. I have a small Cabo estate on the Niners. I have Niners +3 first half, Niners +3.5 full game, Niners money line, Niners to win by between 4 and 8 points. Jimmy G over 1.5 passing touchdowns, over 234.5 passing yards. I think, and those are my bets. So I'm like watching the Chiefs game on my phone, watching Mahomes just pee it down his leg, getting these bets in. I finally get back to the pool to watch the game. And I don't know. I was trying to pinpoint, Eric, the lowest point for me, because you're listening to my voice and you're going, where did you lose your voice? Was it, was it the fourth down? Was it the George Kittle miss? And you know what it actually was, Eric?
It was yelling back into Stadium Swim for somebody to come out and get your stuff. That was what it was.
No, it was me celebrating what I thought up 17-7 was a Super Bowl berth.
Oh.
I was, oh. And it wasn't actually me like celebrating that we had won, but right. I lost my voice cheering. By the time that we were losing it, my voice was already toast. Okay. So the number of times that I was yelling either at Sean McVay, I called Sean McVay some horrible things. I apologize, Sean. I'm sure I called Matt Stafford some names as well. But cheering what was, a solid first half and start to the third quarter.
Well, so here's the question I have, because there's members of the chat. My friend Sam Ryan, by the way, got the Bengals 11-1 mid-game, thanking me for it. Yes. Apparently I was the one who ushered that in. So when you won, which was the bet I discovered on Wednesday, which was in fact the full game was plus 3.5.
Yep.
Halftime was plus 3. You were even going to push with that Matt Gay chubby leg short field goal, but instead you won. Not only did you win that, but you got Niners over 9.5 first half.
Yep.
So you got money. You're flush, right?
Well, so here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
I ended up plus. Now it could have been a lot more, because the big payouts obviously were money line. Niners win by between 4 and 8, which was super live for a while.
But you were plus at halftime. Did you go and cash the halftime tickets and think it all about going Rams?
So here's the thing. You can't cash the tickets in
Stadium Swim. You have to go inside a circle.
So I was going to run out and try and cash those and put some money on the Rams plus, right? And get a big middle.
Yeah.
But I there was no way I would have time. So I'm totally completely down bad in this situation. Here's the funniest part about it.
By the way, somebody in the chat said you really bet the Niners. The Niners covered.
Yeah, the Niners
cover the spread.
And I didn't bet the Niners because I'm a fan. That was the last thing I wanted to do. I bet the Niners because I thought it was a good bet. And the funniest part was, so Jimmy G's fourth quarter is a complete nightmare. I mean, it's a disaster.
Privilege.
And I think there are a couple of reasons, and I'll get into those in a second. But his last completed pass to a Niner was for -3 yards to take him from 235 to 232 and lose me one final bet on his passing yardage total.
Did I show you that parlay that I had in the game? So I had this same game parlay, and it was
brutal.
So just people don't care about your bets, but here I'll just tell you what kind of pain I was in, because I actually was rooting for the Niners. I had Niners -2.5 alt, Cam Akers under 17.5 carries, which was starting to go. Robbie Gould over 2.5 extra points. Deebo Samuel over 21.5 longest catch. And there was one other one. Oh, Jimmy G over 1.5 touchdowns. Jimmy G under 0.5 interceptions. Literally, if the 49ers get a pick 6 and win the game by 3, it was like, it was like 1,000-1 or something like that. Like it was crazy. So that was, and Jimmy G, by the way, and I foreshadow this, when you bet a crappy quarterback under 0.5 interceptions, it's a journey. And I had Jimmy G no interceptions, and of course he stuck us one more time at the end there. You didn't think play. So you didn't think, and here's something, by the way, a little inside baseball for people who listen to our show. Mobile betting in Vegas is extremely difficult.
Yes.
And actually, if you mobile bet, so for example, I'll bet in Indiana because that's where we are in Ohio. We're going to get it in Ohio later. But if you do, for example, DraftKings in Ohio or in Indiana, and you cross the border into Illinois, you have to sign up at a casino to bet online. I know in Illinois. So like the options in Vegas, they're clearly plentiful. But for example, if you go to Vegas for the Super Bowl, you cannot bet any like what I would consider like vanity props. So color Gatorade, our favorite, which is the anthem.
Yep.
That you can't bet those in Vegas. So when you think about betting being legal in Vegas, it's still not as easy as some other places.
There is an inefficiency, which, Circa needs to figure out if they're going to have, like legitimately they should, when you get to your cabana, and we've talked about this before, you should be handed an iPad. You should be given $500 worth of free bets, and you should be able to place bets on your tab at, whenever you want. I mean, the numbers they would take in if that were the case would be absolutely insane. So I put a poll up, who's to blame for the Niners loss here. And I actually think that in this situation, it's a lot more of the Niners lost it and the Rams won it. However, we must remember that Jaquiski Tart dropped perhaps the easiest interception in
that's history. The thing. And look, and again, like I'll say this every single time on my podcast, especially if they win the Super Bowl, we were wrong about the Rams. You can clip that, you can put it up on. I was wrong about the Rams. The Rams have overcome a lot this year, but you still see a little bit of that in Stafford, right? Down 3, first play of a drive, and he throws it right to the free safety. And if you're the Niners, you got to take advantage of that play. Holy buckets. Like, and again, the Rams, here's the other thing with the Rams. This is the other disappointing thing. I'm going to keep it on the 49ers, but also it's true about the Chiefs too. Both the Bengals and the Rams tried to lose the game yesterday with their offense the whole time. Cam Akers had, 13 carries? Another 10 for Sony Michel. They were 2 yards a pop. I know Joe Mixon ended up with okay numbers, but that was mostly because in overtime, you got a couple nice runs. But for the most part, the Bengals were keeping that game alive with early down runs, right? And since both teams won, they're not going to all of a sudden get woke in the Super Bowl, right? And I think that's the frustrating thing too, if you are a Niners fan, is the Rams have that explosiveness. Like Cooper Kupp might be the best player in the NFL.
They were roasting the Niners secondary. I mean, intermediate, deep, it was a shred fest. And I think you're right. It wasn't just the runs. The screen to Sony Michel on a key third down.
Both the Bengals and the Rams did disgraceful things on third and long.
Was not great. And at the end of the game, the ultimately game-winning field goal came after just an acceptance of the fact that they were going to kick a field goal.
Bengals did it too.
The play call.
Bengals did it too on their game or go-ahead field goal in right before the Patrick Mahomes drive. And again, like I said, we're trying to have, again, the Bengals and the Rams deserve to be here. There's no way around that. But I'm a little worried now that because they won games where the other team kind of gave the game to them a little bit, that they're going to go in the Super Bowl. By the way, I mean, I've made 3 bets on the Super Bowl. You know what they are? Under 50, under 49.5, under 49. I've made 3 bets on the Super Bowl. And don't you just see this game being 17-13?
Yeah, I did make a bet on the under as well.
Somebody in the chat's upset about the Cooper Kupp best in the NFL. Have you seen Cooper Kupp's numbers?
Yeah, dude, Cooper Kupp's.
Is Cooper Kupp? I don't know. I think he's the best. I think he's the best. He's not even the best player on his own team. I'm like, Cooper Kupp's one of the best wide receivers in NFL history right now, at least this year.
Yeah. So I want to do. I want to get who you think is most to blame for the Niners' disgrace. I have thought a lot about it. I have some data points that I want to discuss, but in watching the game after coming out of that, were you like, oh, this is a Kyle Shanahan issue? This is a Jimmy G issue? Where do the blame pie? Who gets it?
Yeah, I think our own colleague Kevin Cole was getting into it with Stephen Ruiz of The Ringer today about Jimmy G and all this. in my opinion, Jimmy G doesn't deserve that much blame because Jimmy G is put in a position to be himself. And I actually think Jimmy G does a fairly good job of managing that offense, given all of his limitations. And that offense still got 0.2 expected points per play yesterday. And a lot of that was a screen, but some of that was offset by the interception. I think Jimmy G is very limited. And I think we all know his limitations. And I think, he does some high variance stuff that will really irritate you. But at this point in the Niners journey, every single play Jimmy G doesn't make is Kyle Shanahan's fault, in my opinion. Or all of the things that stretch out Jimmy G's limitations are Kyle Shanahan's fault, in the sense of, I don't know. There were so many opportunities to get out from under Jimmy G this year, right? Trey Lance even started a game early in the season. We had the Niners as the lock of the week that week. They didn't even, they lost 17-10. And then mid-season, Lance played against Houston, who wasn't great, but he also wasn't like, oh my God, you can't win with that guy type bad, right? And this is, again, part of the issue I have with teams that sort of go all in is, I understand the Niners made the NFC Championship game. And so for that, it's a successful season. But did they take a step forward or back this year?
It's a really good question, because it remains to be seen what, maybe Trey Lance has been incubating in a way that is just going to, make him blossom.
Maybe.
I would look at it the other way and say, if you couldn't beat out Jimmy G, who, Jimmy G is who he is. If you're the third overall pick in the NFL, you should probably be able to beat out a guy that, misses a touchdown every single game with an overthrow. So, yeah.
And throws interceptions that are backbreaking at times. And
yeah, so he should have thrown a couple of interceptions before the one he actually threw. He had one to Ramsey and one was at Troy Reader that he should have got earlier in the game. I actually think that there are two entities on the Niners that deserve more blame in this than Jimmy G. The first is, this offensive line was not good. They got their ass kicked by Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and and Gaines, and especially in the second half. They had a 38 pass block grade in the second half. They were awful. It was the worst of any pass blocking unit in any of the games yesterday. And you can't expect to win with Jimmy G if that's what's happening, right? Every time he escapes the pocket, and he did it a couple of times, it's a nightmare, right? He's the guy that escapes the pocket. He gets the image in his mind that he's Patrick Mahomes, and then he throws a freaking duck, and it looks like shit. So that's one. But I think look, the fourth down on 4th and 2, that was Shanahan to a T. It was
shameful.
It was a clear go for it decision. It was an 8 percentage point difference between if you go for it, what your win probability is, and if you punt, what your win probability is. 72-64, massive. And I think the two are kind of correlated, where their offensive line was getting their ass kicked, right? They could not run the ball. They refused to stop running the ball, but they could not run the ball. And Shanahan didn't have anything in his playbook where it was like, yeah, if we're not dominating up front, I have a play that can gain us 2 yards, which, Jimmy G is not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or any of these guys or Joe Burrow, but you should be able to get 2 freaking yards at the fucking 48. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry for swearing in a hoarse voice, but that's just freaking pathetic. You have a chance to win the game with a 4th and 2 conversion, and you'd rather wait to let Jimmy G march 80 yards down the football field?
If you're lucky.
Are you high? What are you doing?
If you're lucky. The Rams
what are you doing?
So
and
think about
Sean
this.
McVay gave you a shot by challenging it stupidly and gave you a chance to go back out and rethink it. Now, I want to back up one play, because the Trent Williams motion stuff is really cool. But Kyle Shanahan, with some of the plays that he has used with the Trent Williams motion, I think are trying to get a little too cute, right? Like Trent Williams goes in motion and then we hand it off on a misdirection sort of play to Kyle Juszczyk. If Trent Williams just put Trent Williams in motion and then follow that motherfucker. Like,
yeah, it was also a penalty because he was going forward.
He was going forward, right?
Yeah, it's just it's a classic like football guy thing where like it looks cool, but it's actually not effective.
And Debo, I mean, Debo had, I think, one touch in the second half. He was absent for a key third down. There was way too much running on early downs. So look, I really like Kyle Shanahan. I love the way he thinks about the game of football. I hate the fact that he's blown 2 10-point leads and really crucial playoff games to the Niners. I obviously hate the fact that, he blew a 28-3 lead as an offensive coordinator, because I think he's a great coach, especially from the way those players love that guy. Like there's something special about that. So it fucking sucks. But I really think that's where a lot of the blame has to go. And you should expect Jimmy G to do what Jimmy G did. Jimmy G missed George Kittle on what should have been a touchdown. When he got out of the pocket, he was a nightmare, and he couldn't overcome an offensive line that played like garbage. So that's my take on this whole thing.
Yeah, let me pull up some stats here
on TED Talk.
What I think so Elijah Mitchell came back from injury in week 17 against Houston.
Yeah.
He had 119 yards. 90 of them came after contact. So 29 yards before contact on 21 carries against Houston. Against LA in week 18, he had 17 yards on 21 carries before contact. In the wild card round, he had 11 yards on 27 carries before contact. In last week's game against Green Bay, he had 24 yards on 17 carries before contact, so a little bit better. And then yesterday on 11 carries, he had -2 yards before contact. The run game, the baseline run game for them not being that good was the canary in the coal mine. And the interesting thing about Mitchell is he's one of the league leaders in total rushing yards on perfectly blocked runs. So what does that mean? The Niners run game is, we talked about this when they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago too. It was the same back then. The Niners run game is explosive, but it's not consistent.
Yeah.
And when you have and I don't even think this is a characteristic of the Niners so much as it is every team's running game is like this. Mm-hmm. Every running game that we fall in love with is explosive but not consistent. No run game in the NFL gets 4 yards every time. None, right? And it might average 4 yards, it might average 5 yards, but it was like, why were the Lions never that great of a team with Barry Sanders? Barry Sanders is one of the best football players to ever play. But what did his stat sheet look like? -1, -1, 380. -1, -3, 480. Right? Like, and obviously the 80 helps you, but running the football the way that they do as an establishment, you need the explosive plays. And when that explosive play well runs dry, and it's going to be harder for them to win.
Okay, let's spend a little time on the Super Bowl here, because we have all off season to talk about what the fuck the Chiefs and the Niners are going to do. Before we do though, I got to remind everyone that, look, you're making a trip. Maybe you're coming out to LA for the Super Bowl. If so, make sure you get your Manscaped self ready to go. Travel with your Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped, manscaped.com with promo code PFF, get 20% off plus free shipping. I traveled with it to Vegas. Thing is a fucking dream. Works like a dream every single time. And didn't need to bring the charger because it always stays charged. So go to Manscaped, get the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0 with the extra long battery life, the super safe clippers, and the light, and get 20% off with promo code PFF and plus free shipping at manscaped.com. Also, if you are planning to bet on the Super Bowl, you should probably do so with DraftKings, official sports betting partner of the NFL, and they're celebrating with a huge odds boost. Use promo code PFF when you deposit for the first time and get 56-1 odds on any team. Bet just $5. Get 280 in free bets if your team wins. If sportsbooks are not available in your state, that's okay too, because DraftKings has plenty of daily fantasy for you to win huge cash prizes. Plus, they're giving all new customers a free shot and $1 million in total prizes with your first deposit. So promo code PFF, 56-1 odds at DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet just $5, get 280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers only, $5 deposit, must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. $1 wager is required. One for customer restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And last but not least, our friends at Western and Southern want you to enjoy the big game. Cincinnati Bengals are in there. Western and Southern, of course, headquartered in Cincinnati, and they want you to enjoy the game with a $2,500 catered meal from the restaurant of your choice. Here's how you enter. Go to westernsouthern.com/feast, and then you can ask Chris Collinsworth a question. It could be about financial savvy or football success. I'm guessing it's going to be about football, but Western Southern can take care of the financial side for you as well. Make sure you've got a playbook for your financial success. When you ask that question, you'll be entered to win. Go to westernsouthern.com/feast, then go check out the Chris Collinsworth podcast to see if your question gets answered. Okay. Super Bowl. The spread. We usually guess the spread. Obviously, we've seen it already. It opened at 4. It is -100 +4 for the Bengals, -110 -4 for the Rams on Pinnacle. So it might move out a little bit from there. Are you surprised at all by the spread?
Yeah, we're not gonna, we'd love for you guys to get a PFF subscription. We'll tell you, sort of where our model is at. I will just say, I've already told you guys what I bet on total, just because I thought it was going to go somewhere. People were messaging me asking, basically saying, hey, this is high. So I got involved there. I actually did get involved, and I might buy some back, but I got involved a little bit at Rams -4 when it was -110. Because now, as you quote the Pinnacle lines, if you're on more of a square book, it's going to be like -4, -120, let's say. And so my thought was, football's a matchup game.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about this for 2 weeks, right? We're going to be at every freaking table at Radio Row, and we're going to be saying the same thing over and over and over again, right? And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the handicap for this game is pretty simple, right? It's two things, right?
Yep.
It's the Bengals offensive line versus the Bengals offensive line versus the Rams defensive line, and then how well the quarterbacks play. To me, football gets a little complicated sometimes, but ultimately, that's what it's going to look like. And I do think the market, because of last year's Super Bowl, is going to maybe overreact to this mismatch, which is stark. I'm not going to diminish the mismatch, which is huge. I'm just thinking, are we going to weigh it too much? This is the biggest spread we've seen in a Super Bowl since you and I first started doing this, when it was Eagles with Nick Foles versus the Patriots. Spreads in Super Bowls are tight, right? That was a backup quarterback against Tom Brady. That was 5.5 points. This is Joe Burrow against Matthew Stafford, and this is 4. It probably will close 4.5. And so I took a little Rams just so that I could buy back Bengals or just have a really good closing line value at the end. I think that's how it's going to look.
I agree with you. I mean, so get a PFF subscription. You can go check out the lineup tab on our scores page, where you can get all of the great betting info and model information and all that stuff. This is as stark of a mismatch as you will see. Whether you look on the interior with the right guard at Anichi for the Bengals, who has been an absolute nightmare, and Aaron Donald is going to terrorize and pulverize that guy, or on the outside with Von Miller and Leonard Floyd. The one area that the Bengals are going to have to win in is the quick passing game. And it's going to, look, Ramsey is really freaking good. So it's, T. Higgins, and you brought up a really good point about Higgins in the game against the Chiefs, which is like, look, Fenton's back, but they can't cover anybody else. And Higgins, of course, went for like 102. That to me is what has to happen. There's something also interesting about the dynamic of it being in LA. And I'm curious what you think after watching that game. It was loud in there for the Rams,
both teams,
and for the Niners.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how loud it was when the Niners had the ball. And Cincinnati obviously has not been to a Super Bowl in forever. So, you'd expect them to show up for this game. So I'm very curious what home field will look like here. I also, do you give any credence to, okay, well, Sean McVay has been here before versus Zach Taylor, who, I don't think he's been very impressive, obviously, from a play calling standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, McVay's first experience in the Super Bowl was a gut punch. Yeah, right. So and a lot of the key players, Brandon Cooks, Jared Goff, they're gone from that team. So, obviously Donald and Kupp, but even Kupp didn't play in that first Super Bowl. He had an ACL that year. So it's crazy how much the league changes in 3 years, but that's how it goes. I give home field a little bit for sure. The Niners were trying to become the first team in NFL history to win 4 consecutive road games this week. So they won week 18 and then 3 straight. That would have been the first team in NFL history to win that many road games. Somebody in the chat, I think, said something really, I think, spot on in the sense of the Bengals have needed 3 really fortunate things to happen in a row.
Yes.
And, obviously, that like there's no such thing as being due, but I think we have to look back, and we'll analyze this game to death in the next 2 weeks. So I just want to keep this short, but take a look back at how impressive the Bengals have been on offense in this postseason. It hasn't been that good. It hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been lighting the world on fire like they did against the Ravens or the Chiefs the first time around.
Right. For that matter, as good as the Rams. Sorry to interrupt you, but the Rams offense has looked good. Like Stafford has made mistakes, but they have carved teams up over the middle and intermediate areas.
The only thing that's held the Rams back is how much they run the football to Cam Akers. Like if you look at Cam Akers' numbers since coming back, and I think this is the other thing, and this is why, when guys like you and me, we get called out for not being football guys and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this is where I think somebody like you and we differ from the football guys in like, Cam Akers coming back from an Achilles is an amazing feat, an absolutely amazing feat that I think we'll all look back and say, my goodness, what a great player. What a great accomplishment. But I challenge you to look and see how he's actually performed, because in the wild card round against Arizona, 17 carries for 55 yards, 40 of those yards after contact, 3.2 yards a carry. In the game against the Bucs, 24 carries for 48 yards. He went over his prop by half a yard on that fumble. He had 2 fumbles in that game, 43 yards. So he had 5 yards before contact on 24 rushing attempts against Tampa Bay. And then this week against San Francisco, he had 13 rushes for 48 yards, 40 of them after contact. So 8 yards before contact on 13 rushes. And again, I think for both of these offenses, and especially the Rams, because I think Stafford is playing better than Joe Burrow right now.
Yeah, that was
the offensive coordinator is stopping the offense way more than the other team's defense in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's a really good point. I agree 100% with that. As great as Joe Burrow has played in singular plays where he needs to play well, Stafford is playing better than him. And Stafford is playing.
Yeah, I don't think it's close in the playoffs.
It's not particularly close. I mean, Stafford was the highest graded guy yesterday, the highest graded guy in the second half by a mile at an over 80 PFF grade. And look, had that one awful throw. I'll say this about Stafford. I mean, he got hit in the first half and was able to continue delivering for the most part some really good throws in that game and played really well. And so, yeah, I think they have the advantage of quarterback. And that's kind of the scary thing here, right? Is, when you look at a spread of 4 and you go, okay, well, yeah, that's kind of a big spread for a Super Bowl. But then you go, yeah, but are the Bengals really going to pull a rabbit out of a head again? To quote.
Well, the thing that you have to come back to is a couple things, okay? Because I agree. I think Stafford's playing better right now than Burrow. The offensive line mismatch between the Bengals offensive line and the defensive line for the Rams is stark. It's the biggest in football. But if you're a Bengals fan, this is your hope. Instead of taking Penei Sewell at 5, you took Jamar Chase. And you know why you took Jamar Chase? Because yesterday against the Chiefs devoted a lot of attention to Jamar Chase, and he had 54 yards receiving. You know who stepped up? T. Higgins, the other wide receiver you took in the top 2 rounds. And Tyler Boyd made some great third down catches. Jalen Ramsey, right? If Jalen Ramsey's playing the Chiefs Sunday, I think he has more success because he locks down Kelsey, and then the's only one guy left for the rest of the Rams to cover. The Bengals, again, assuming protection, and I think what you said is important, they have to be, it's got to be short throws. It's got to be short throws. It's got to be stuff in space, and it's got to be away from Ramsey. But I will say this, the Bengals have the goods on the outside. And so that's the one place. And the fact is, Stafford has played better than Burrow the last month, but Burrow's played better than Stafford this year. And that, to me, is like, if you look at, okay, what reverts back to the mean,
yeah,
you have to hope for that if you're the Bengals fan.
So I think you're right. The tough thing is that Burrow's Achilles heel is sacks. And if you take 9 sacks here, you're going to lose this freaking game. And this is where it shows up. Now, I would be worried about the Bengals right now saying to themselves, you know, we're going to slow that pass rush down. We're going to run Joe Mixon. And the problem is that if that's your only way to do it, then you are going to come out and you're going to run too much in early downs, and you're going to put Burrow in a position where he's going to take sacks. But if you come out and you say, look, we're going to run up tempo, and we're going to throw quick passes on first down, I think that is the way. Now, the shitty thing is you can't coach your bets, right? But if you are putting together a game plan, that would be the game plan. I would also think about getting Joe Burrow out of the pocket. I would move him around and take advantage. He has made plays outside of the pocket. I would take advantage of that. So anyways, we're going to break this down a ton. We had a listener who said, please give a few minutes on the podcast to the Raiders. And so I am curious. We've seen Josh McDaniels coach before. It was a nightmare in Denver. He now brings the Patriot way to Vegas. If there was ever an oil and water situation, this, my friend, is it. Was it a good hire? You know, I know we don't like to, kind of judge these things, but we've seen McDaniel already. We have a lot of information about that offense in New England. And now he has Derek Carr. What was your takeaway from that?
Derek Carr, do you know who Josh McDaniels' first quarterback in Denver was?
No.
Kyle Orton.
Oh my God. Wow.
So it's kind of, and back then people will laugh, but Derek Carr is better than Kyle Orton, but it was sort of that similar put up decent statistics, but not win that much kind of quarterback. Mm-hmm. He wanted Matt Castle because that was his backup in New England, and it pissed off Jay Cutler. So then they traded Jay Cutler to Chicago. It was a mess. Hopefully he's learned from that. That Raiders team's a mess. And to me, the Patriot way doesn't work. Tell me where the Patriot ways work besides New England.
Yeah, that's the really tough thing is you have kind of this history of I don't know that it is that it is something that you want to bring in. I will say this though, from an offensive standpoint, if you're going to keep Carr, I do like, I think McDaniel will make the most of him offensively, but yeah, it's interesting. I struggle. Here's what I struggle with. And I am a fan of giving people second chances. But when he got his first job, I think what came out of Denver was, he's trying to be Bill Belichick. He wasn't really able to be himself. And if, it just may be the fact that that's a hard thing. That's not something that he's super comfortable doing. If he can, though, and he is good at that, that's the type of leadership that they really need in Vegas. But if it doesn't happen, it will go south more quickly, which I think is something to watch. And
that was always the promise of Gruden, right? You look at the Raiders and it was coach after coach after coach after coach after coach. And McDaniel's time in Denver lasted 1 year and 13 games or something like that. It wasn't that long. And he's got to be in here for the long haul because not only, I think that they're going to get the buyout money back from Gruden, but they can't be paying 3 coaches on contract, right? McDaniel's like a pitcher that's getting shelled, but the bullpen is it needs rest, and he's just got to go out there and give up 18 runs or something. That's who he is.
What's interesting about this was I think this was the reason that this hire was made was a direct referendum on what has been happening in Vegas, right? So the whole Gruden thing, the number of players that they've had who have run into the law, and Mark Davis was like, I'm bringing in someone that knows how to get people, to straighten up and fly right. But I don't know that I don't know how much confidence we have that this duo of Ziegler and McDaniels are going to be able to bring that over, right? Because it is hard. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm not sure that he would have been my first choice for that job. I think from an offensive standpoint, I would have been looking in some other directions, but I do think it's a hell of a lot better than just running it back with Rick Versace, your boy. The Bengals, by the way, plus 4.5 on the poll in the YouTube chat. They are getting 68% of the bets there, which I don't know, man. Yeah. I want to see Joe Burrow play well too, but that is tough. We'll be back. Look, go ahead.
It would, obviously we'd love our city to be lit up by this, right? We love, I'm not a Bengals fan, but I'm a
city.
Yeah, our city. I'm not a Bengals fan, but I'm a fan of the Bengals, I guess, is sort of like what I would say. It's been fun watching them this year. The Rams have proven a lot of people wrong, though, and maybe they'll do it one more week.
It'd be sweet. We'll be back on Wednesday evening. We, of course, will break down this game in every way, shape, and form, and we'll talk about all of the bets. Remember last year, all the research that yours truly did for the national anthem? You can expect that same type of rigor from Eric and I. Eric is going to listen to all of the Eminem, Mac Dre, and Mary J. Blige and Kendrick Lamar so that he can accurately predict the halftime show. It's going to be awesome. We can't wait to hang out with you guys over the course of the next couple of weeks as we lead up to the Super Bowl. Thanks for hanging out, putting up with my shitty voice and awful lighting. Eric, I appreciate you.
I thought you got better as the game went on.
Thank you. See y'all.